Welcome to our deep dive. This time we're tackling how to manage Parkinson's disease.
Absolutely, and we've got a really interesting mix of sources to pull from. Medical journals, personal stories, we're covering a lot of ground.
Definitely. Our goal is to help you, the listener, understand how to live well with Parkinson's. And we're not just talking about medication. We're going beyond the basics. Think therapies, tech the whole picture.
You know, it's such a complex condition, it really impacts all aspects of life.
Right, it's not just about movement. So let's get started. We're going to assume you've got the medication basics down. But, this Johns Hopkins article really stuck with me. They emphasize that there's so much you can do beyond medication to feel better.
Oh, definitely.
They focus a lot on lifestyle factors. Exercise, diet, sleep, hydration, all that good stuff.
It's funny, those seem so basic, but they make a huge difference. People often want the complex treatments, but sometimes it's those simple things.
Yeah, like building a house. You need a strong foundation first.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, something I was really curious about, what about integrative therapies? What did the evidence say about things like acupuncture or supplements?
Well, it really depends. You have to look at each one individually. Take CoQ10, for example. It's a supplement that initially showed promise, but a large study found it wasn't any more effective than a placebo.
That's so important to remember. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's a miracle cure. Always talk to your doctor before trying new things.
Couldn't agree more. It's about making informed decisions.
Absolutely. Now, one therapy that did seem promising in our research was yoga, especially when adapted for Parkinson's.
Oh, the research on that is fascinating. One study back in 2012 showed that yoga could really improve mobility, flexibility, even mood for people with Parkinson's.
And it makes sense when you think about it. The focus on mindful movement and breath control could be very helpful with those rigidity and tremor symptoms.
And let's be honest, who couldn't use a mood boost?
Exactly. But here's a therapy I didn't expect to see. Massage. Apparently, it can be surprisingly effective for tremors, even if just temporarily.
Right. A study from 2016 showed that a 1-hour massage significantly reduced muscle rigidity and resting tremor.
It makes you wonder why. Is it the relaxation? Improved circulation? Or maybe just a break from constantly managing symptoms?
Yeah, more research is definitely needed. But those findings are intriguing.
And this idea of retraining movement patterns, it keeps coming up in our research.
Absolutely. The Johns Hopkins article talks about the Alexander technique and the Feldenkrais method, which both focus on improving movement and coordination.
So it's not just about treating the symptoms, but actually working with your body to improve how it functions.
Precisely.
I love that. Now, are you ready to get a bit techie?
Always.
Great. Because Management of Parkinson's Disease, this book we have, really dives deep into how technology is changing things. One thing that struck me, traditional doctor visits, they only give a snapshot of your symptoms.
That's so true. You might be having a good day or you're nervous at the doctor's office and it doesn't show the full picture of how you're really doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now we have remote monitoring technologies that can track things in real time. That gives a much more accurate view, and it's more personalized.
It really opens up a lot of possibilities.
One technology I found fascinating was Staton. It's like a heart monitor, but for Parkinson's.
Yeah.
It tracks movement data constantly and then uses algorithms to analyze it.
It's amazing how it came about, too. It was developed from two big research projects, REMPark and ParkGot.
And the book gives some really incredible real-life stories of how this data has made a difference. For example, there was this woman whose Stat-on data helped her realize that her non-motor symptoms were actually fluctuating just as much as her tremors, things like fatigue and mood swings.
Wow.
That awareness helped her adjust her routine and medication to manage those fluctuations.
That's the power of this kind of data. It gives you a level of insight that wasn't possible before.
Another case that stood out to me was a man who was having a lot of off time. Those times when symptoms suddenly worsen.
Oh, yes. Very challenging.
Well, his Stat-on data showed that the tube delivering his medication was actually in the wrong position. Once they corrected it, his symptoms stabilized.
That's remarkable. It really shows how technology can empower both patients and doctors. More information leads to better decisions.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about something that's always been a bit mind-blowing to me. Deep brain stimulation, or DBS. It's a surgical treatment where they implant electrodes in the brain to help control symptoms.
It can be a life-changing treatment, but it's a serious decision. There are potential risks, and it's important to carefully evaluate who is a good candidate.
Right. It's not for everyone. DBS always seems so futuristic to me. It's like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But I have to admit, the idea of brain surgery is a bit daunting.
It's understandable to feel that way. DBS is a complex procedure, and it's crucial to go into it with a clear understanding of both the potential benefits and the risks. It is, and that's why the selection process for DBS is so crucial.
So it's not just about having a Parkinson's diagnosis.
Yeah.
There are specific factors that determine if it's the right choice for you.
Exactly. The article actually mentions needing at least one indication and fulfilling 5 prerequisites to be considered. It's very thorough.
Wow. So what are some of those indications and prerequisites?
Well, one key indication is having really troublesome motor complications from medication. Like some people experience what's called the on-off phenomenon. Their symptoms can fluctuate throughout the day.
Yeah, I've heard about that. And then there are dyskinesias, those involuntary movements that can be a side effect of long-term medication.
Right. And if those dyskinesias are really impacting your life, that could be another reason to consider DBS. But a crucial thing is that you need to be responding well to levodopa. It's one of the main medications for Parkinson's.
So even if someone has really bad motor symptoms, if they don't respond to levodopa, DBS might not be the best option.
Exactly. Now, the prerequisites are more about your overall health and making sure you're a good candidate for surgery. So things like age, general health, how well your brain is functioning, and whether you have any serious mental health issues all come into play.
And I remember reading that cognitive function, like memory and thinking, is super important to consider. Because sometimes DBS can actually have a negative impact on that for some people.
You're right. The article highlights the importance of looking at MRI scans for things like white matter hyperintensities. They can help predict how someone might do cognitively after DBS.
It makes sense. You don't want to fix one problem and create another. It's about looking at the whole person.
Exactly. It's a holistic assessment to make sure they're getting the best possible outcome.
Now, one thing that always comes up is age. Is there like a cutoff age for DBS?
There's not a hard and fast rule, but the article does point out that anytime someone is older, especially over 70, any surgery needs to be carefully considered. Things can be riskier.
Right. It's not just about the number. It's about their overall health.
Exactly. The article talks about thinking about biological age rather than just how many years you've been alive. Two 70-year-olds could be totally different in terms of their health.
That's a really good point. This whole discussion about DBS really highlights how important it is to treat each person as an individual.
Absolutely. Everyone's experience with Parkinson's is unique.
So their symptoms, how they respond to medication, their lifestyle, everything plays a role in figuring out the best treatment plan.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture of managing Parkinson's. We've talked about specific therapies, but what about the emotional and social side of living with this condition?
That's so important and often overlooked. Parkinson's is more than just a set of symptoms. It really impacts every part of your life.
I found this article from TCU that was really insightful. It emphasized a holistic approach to care, considering the person's physical, emotional, social, even spiritual needs.
I love that. It's about treating the whole person, not just the disease.
Exactly. And that requires a whole team of people working together. Neurologists, therapists, nurses, even dietitians. Everyone has a role.
It really does take a village.
And, of course, we can't forget about caregivers. They play such a crucial role, and they need support, too.
Absolutely. It's a shared journey for everyone involved.
While we're talking about holistic care, I wanted to circle back to natural remedies for Parkinson's. We talked about CoQ10 earlier, which wasn't as effective as hoped. But what about other natural approaches? There seems to be a lot of different opinions out there.
Natural remedies can be tricky. It's great to be open-minded, but you also have to be cautious, especially if you're dealing with a complex condition like Parkinson's and already taking medications.
One website I came across, Drax.com, recommended all sorts of things. Dietary changes, supplements, lifestyle modifications.
Sounds like a lot.
It was. But they did stress that you should always talk to your doctor before making any big changes.
That's key.
The Parkinson's Foundation had some great advice on diet and nutrition for people with Parkinson's.
Oh, what did they say?
They emphasized the importance of a balanced diet with plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean protein, all the good stuff.
Makes sense.
They also had specific tips on managing things like constipation, which is a common issue for people with Parkinson's.
Oh, right. What did they recommend for that?
More fiber, staying active, things like that.
Practical advice is always helpful.
Now, Stanford Medicine Center for Parkinson's seemed a bit more cautious about complementary therapies.
Oh, interesting. How so?
They acknowledge that people are interested in natural approaches, but they really emphasize the need for more research.
Of course, we need to know if something is truly safe and effective.
Right. And they also pointed out the risk of interactions between supplements and medications, which is a valid concern.
Definitely. It's not always as simple as just adding something natural to your routine.
I did appreciate that they emphasized open communication between patients and their doctors. It's about working together to make the best decisions.
Transparency is key.
So it seems like the world of natural remedies can be a bit overwhelming, but there are definitely some things worth exploring. It's just important to be skeptical, do your research, and talk to your doctor.
Well said. This deep dive into Parkinson's management has been quite a journey.
It really has. We've covered so much, from lifestyle changes to technology to surgery. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But even with all that, there's a lot of hope in this field. The future of managing Parkinson's is really exciting.
Okay, give me some of that hope. What breakthroughs are on the horizon?
Well, one of the most promising areas is disease-modifying therapies. Right now, most treatments just focus on symptoms, helping with tremors and movement problems.
Right, they don't actually slow down the disease itself. That's what a disease-modifying therapy would do.
Exactly. Researchers are working hard to develop treatments that target the root causes of Parkinson's, not just the symptoms.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Imagine if Parkinson's became something you could manage, like diabetes or high blood pressure, instead of something that keeps getting worse.
That's the goal. And another area that's really changing things is personalized medicine. We've touched on it throughout our deep dive, but imagine a future where treatments are really tailored to each individual.
So not a one-size-fits-all approach, but something that takes into account your genes, your symptoms, even your lifestyle.
Exactly. We talked about Staton and how it gives personalized insights into your motor fluctuations. Now imagine combining that with genetic testing, biomarkers, all sorts of data.
Wow, that level of precision is amazing.
Hmm.
It seems like healthcare is really on the verge of something big, using technology not just to treat disease, but to really understand it on an individual level.
It is. And speaking of technology, AI and machine learning are going to have a huge impact on how we manage Parkinson's.
It's hard to even imagine the possibilities. How could those be used?
Well, think about AI tools that can analyze your speech patterns, how you walk, even your facial expressions.
To detect Parkinson's.
Yes, and to do it early, even before the typical motor symptoms show up.
That would be a game changer. Early detection is so important.
Absolutely. And once someone is diagnosed, AI could help personalize their medication, figuring out the best dose and timing for each individual, even predicting side effects.
So it's not just about new drugs, it's about using technology to make the treatments we already have more effective.
Exactly. And on top of all this high-tech stuff, there's also a growing understanding of how important lifestyle is in managing Parkinson's.
We talked about that earlier, but it's worth emphasizing. Those basic things, exercise,
Yeah.
diet, sleep, managing stress, they're not just extras, they're really crucial.
They are. And the research on this is fascinating. There's so much to learn about the connection between gut health, the microbiome, and Parkinson's.
My microbiome.
The trillions of bacteria that live in your gut, they play a huge role in your overall health, and we're just starting to understand how they might be involved in Parkinson's.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is. And we're learning more and more about how exercise can protect your brain and how certain diets might help. It's really empowering for people with Parkinson's because it means they can take control of their health beyond just taking medication.
It's about being proactive and working with your doctor to create a plan that really works for you.
Exactly. This whole deep dive has really highlighted the need for a holistic approach to Parkinson's care. It's about combining conventional medicine with things like complementary therapies, personalized technology, and lifestyle changes.
And remembering that Parkinson's impacts more than just the person with the diagnosis. It affects families and caregivers too.
It's a journey, and it takes a whole team.
Well said. Parkinson's is definitely challenging, but it doesn't have to define your life. There's so much hope out there.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We've explored so much. But remember, it's just the beginning. Keep learning, stay curious, and never lose hope.
And keep diving deep.